Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, the Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, the Wickoff Group.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. You know, people love eating. It's manja, manja, manja. People want to eat around New York. They want to eat around the world. So you got to have a world-class chef. You know, I've done shows with people who are operators of restaurants. I've never really had a true chef. I mean, I always have apples. So look at these desserts. Look at this fantastic dessert. Today, I'm fortunate to have David Burke, chairman, entrepreneur, chef of the Burke Group. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Mike.
So, you know, one of the nice things about the Stoller Report building in New York is I have the opportunity to meet kids who were born in Brooklyn like me. You know, so you were born in Brooklyn, and you were born in Bed-Stuy, but unfortunately you don't even know where in Brooklyn.
I left in diapers, yeah.
You left in diapers, and your father, who was a motorman,
yeah.
And conductor,
yep.
And then an instructor on the MTA,
yeah.
then decided to take the Burke family, okay, got fancy, went to Hazlitt, New Jersey.
Yeah, it's a fancy town.
Right, you went to Hazlitt, New Jersey.
We had apples there, too.
Yeah, I know, but we did, okay. You know, you had the orchards, you could have good cakes. That's maybe how you made all these beautiful desserts. So you go to Hazlitt, New Jersey, and there's this kid, David Burke, and what does David Burke do as a young kid? You know, he had some jobs, odd jobs before the wrestling
Well,
days.
you know, I played Little League. It was a great little town. And then I had a paper route, which nobody has ever, when I talk to my young chefs, I was like, they don't know what a paper route is. I had a paper route, I guess I was 10 or 12, whatever the age is. I was a hustler. I always liked to work. You know, I was the oldest son. And I like to get out of the house and do things. I cut the lawns, I did that. I like to make my own money. I like to do things.
So what happens? Hazlitt had this Holiday Inn, and you...
Yeah, that was Route 35. There's 2 highways between Hazlitt, 36 and 35. I worked at a little motor inn. I cut the lawns. I fixed, I was like the assistant to the maintenance guy on the weekends. I was like 15 years old. And my cousin was a dishwasher, an older cousin. And they were having a lot of fun in the kitchen. And I got to be honest with you, I was jealous.
You were jealous, and you said to me you were really jealous because the chef had the Jaguar, and
a red
Jaguar, and he had the Babe of the Week, right?
Yes, he did.
You know, each week, you know, and you said, "Hey,
it's not why I became a chef, but
no,
but it was a little. It was like I was doing the math, like, and that's in the 70s.
So here's this guy Burke here, who's a wrestler, weighing about 105 pounds.
98.
Oh, you were 98.
Take it easy.
Okay, so you're 98 pounds, and you see your cousin. He's making the turkey.
He's doing dishes now. He becomes turkey club guy.
Turkey club guy.
And Caesar salad guy, or a sandwich boy. You know, like pantry guy, I guess we call him. And And you don't see food like that in the home. You know, like the way they, you know, with the skewers. Making a turkey club with French fries is like architectural cuisine to me back then. It wasn't Alfred Portale and David Burke at the River Cafe making it. And that was like, wow, look at this thing. I want to know how to make that.
So how do you get from the maintenance man to the kitchen? How do you get
Well,
in?
I was a lawn cutter. I was a kid. I did that long hair. And I just wanted to be part of a team. And they were having fun, and it was camaraderie. I mean, teamwork and being a chef and working in the kitchen, it's part of like, it's a team, because you got to work, you need the guy next to you to succeed. Like a quarterback needs a line, the chef needs his cooks, he needs his maitre d'. So it was something, and I was into sports, but I was not into sports as much. I wasn't going to be a professional athlete. It kind of fit for me.
You have a great story. You told me about the coach.
Oh, yeah.
You told the coach, the wrestling coach.
I was a wrestler. Listen, I played little pee-wee and little leagues, and I was a very good, believe it or not, basketball, football, baseball. I sucked at baseball. I was a good third baseman, but I couldn't hit. For some reason, I still can't hit, and that's one of the things it's on my bucket list, that I want to learn how to hit a home run. So I started wrestling, because I wasn't too short to play basketball. I started wrestling. Anyway, I become a varsity wrestler at 101 pounds, and that year, I get a letter that year, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, the next year, that summer, me and my dad have this 16-year-old versus father thing, which is, he was a bad guy that summer. He's a great father, but you fight. That's your 2 years of telling me, what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I want to be a chef. And he wasn't pleased with that.
Now, but he sent you to the famed Eatontown shopping center, which ironically now has a Bobby Flay's burger over there.
I was there a couple weeks ago. Yes.
So you go to the Eatontown shopping center. You want to reminisce Abraham and Strauss, right?
Yes.
A&S was there. You remember that?
A&S,
everybody went there. It was the end, 105.
It was, yes, exactly.
Right
we call it the Eatontown Mall. It was the Monmouth Mall, whatever it's called.
Whatever it is.
I used to hitchhike there. Back then, we hitchhiked.
And you took a course in cooking.
It's called the Contemporary Cooking Center. And the gentleman who owned it is actually a customer of mine in Rumson now. And he remembers. I went there. My dad signed me up to be a kid in a cooking class with a bunch of housewives. It was kind of like what Williams-Sonoma may do now, but it took 30 years ago. And I signed up. He signed me up to discourage me. And it didn't work, because I got hired to be the prep cook, and I had a broken arm. I remember, I had this picture of me with a broken arm, hair down to here, trying to be a chef, trying to get into what a young kid would be now, into culinary.
Now, so you were there, and then you got involved with the Navasink Country Club?
I became a broiler cook at Navasink Country Club. I got a break in my life. I got a lot of breaks in my life.
But get the Jose at the Navasink.
He was a chef. He needed a cook, and it happens often. You're desperate for bodies, workers. And I said, listen, I make onion rings. I was never a real cook, like a line cook, hot cook. And he said, just go up to the manager and tell him that you were a cook. Don't tell me you're a prep cook, because that means you make salads. He said, basically lie to him. So I went up to the manager. Country club is a big deal for me. It's a beautiful country club. I said, I'm a broiler cook at the bar. He goes, good, you're hired, you start, blah, blah, blah. And the first time with the double-breasted coat, I'm like, I'm telling you.
No, it was like going to Toys R Us.
I was like, forget about a skateboard or a surfboard or whatever. I'm like, and I used to have a break. Country clubs do split. So I'd wear my chef coat everywhere. Blood on it, stains, pieces of bone. I'd meet my friends like out for a soda or a beer, or whatever. They're like, and my nickname became Berkey the Chef. And which was kind of a goof, because no one really realized that the potential of becoming a chef back then.
Now, you also work for
Marjorie, which I now own. Yeah,
right. But
at the country club, which was tremendous for me, was eye-opening. And Jose taught me butchering. I became a good cook. It's just a skill. It's actually.
So you think if I go into Fishtail, you'll teach me and I'll be able to.
Yeah, you got potential.
Okay.
You got potential. A lot of work. Wear comfortable shoes.
Okay, let's get back to the.
So I go to Fromage, which was the ultimate French restaurant and best restaurant in New Jersey at the time. It's probably 79, 80. And so I spent about 6-7 weeks there before I go to college, which is the CIA. Which.
Yeah, but before the Culinary Institute, and you did have that little hassle with your dad. He said, if you're going to become a chef, you're going to pay me $60 a week.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot about that.
Well, and I worked hard and I stayed out late, and my dad's an old school, listen, you live under my roof, you have my rules. which I adore him for. But I'm a kind of a rule-breaking kind of guy.
But he gave him the $60 a week, and then he gave it back to you when you went to the Culinary Institute. So now this
and you know what? I still hit him up for money.
Yeah, no question. So now the kid, did you know what Hyde Park was? I mean,
no one. The
I mean,
CIA
you were in
was
Jersey. You never
the Culinary of America was very new. They moved from New. It wasn't a place. It wasn't what it is today, and the culinary arts wasn't what it is today. You either when I graduated CIA, we had guys like Todd Angus, Michael Chiarello, and we were true, in my opinion, guys that went to school for passion, and like artists, we wanted to do something. It wasn't a big career. It wasn't like, well, it's a great career choice. It was a passionate choice. It was like saying, you know what, I want to do this.
Now, the interesting thing is, you know, certain people talk about the Catskills, the Nevele, you know, the Concord. You go to work for the owners of the Nevele, not in the kitchen of the Nevele, but cooking in their house.
On the weekends, I had a green Gremlin. I don't know if you remember what a Gremlin was.
Sure, the Gremlins. What a car.
I should drive. I got to be honest, that was a great car. And I drive over. There was a little, you know, bulletin board at college, and weekend chef, and I worked for the Slutskys, and I got to tell you, I got to experiment so much because I'd learned something one week and I'd cook it.
Right, and the birthday cake and the avocados. Those weren't.
I wasn't a pastry, and I have pastry now. I was determined. I had to fake it. I made a birthday cake, and I had to make a tomato roast, you know, which is like, and I put sugar on it. I tried to goof on it, and they caught me. So I was like, I said, I'm going to learn that pastry.
Now, between the first and the second year of the Culinary Institute, the kid from Hazlitt, who probably never left Hazlitt and Hyde Park, now you go to Texas?
Dallas. Yeah.
Boy, and it was the time of the Dallas show. You know,
Dallas. It was hot. It was summer. I lived at the Y, which was terrible. No curtains, no screens.
But you worked at this famous...
I worked at Fairmont Hotel, the Pyramid Room. It was probably the best, one of the top 2-3 restaurants in the country at the time. That's why I went. And it was tough. They paid me $3.25 an hour. That was the minimum wage. Worked 40 hours a week because so I took another job making $7.50 an hour.
You worked for Victoria Station, right?
And a place called Ratcliffe's. And yeah, I hustled. I worked, and I had no car. I had no friends. I just worked. I didn't need a lot. I just needed to learn.
So you finish Culinary Institute, and what do? You know, you
I go
graduate.
To Norway. I go to Norway. I go
Norway.
Yeah.
I mean, your father must have said, "What the hell are you going to Norway?"
No, he had his doubts. He still had his doubts. He's like, this guy, who goes to Norway to cook? I mean, you talk about Irish food is bad. Norwegian food is like.
But you go for a wealthy guy.
I go for the best guy in the country, and he hired me because I had good skills as a student. And they usually went to Paris to hire from the Cordon Bleu or something to hire. I was a chef in the home for the summer, and it was you know, it was a ticket to travel and to see, and that was what I wanted. I wanted a ticket out to go see what I wanted. My way to France, and that was the closest I could get. And I figured, you know what? It's funny because my son just graduated college and he wants to take a little time off, and I'm like, no, go back. And I just wanted to be free for a little while. I was still cooking, and it was a tough job because I was my own boss. I had to cook everything, and it's like wrestling. You can't blame anything else on a teammate. You're the only guy there. You can't say, well, it ain't my fault. I didn't know cook steak, my cook. So there's something to be learned, but when you're in charge by yourself.
So after that, this guy happened to have an involvement with a place in Connecticut?
Yes, he lived in Greenwich. So I come back to Connecticut and back to Jersey, and I work at La Cremiere. Wally Malouf is the chef there, who's one of my mentors. And I take a job up. It's in Banksville, New York. It's still around, La Cremiere, and the owner owned La Caravelle, New York. And it was a true French New York City style restaurant, which is really.
What's the Irish kid doing with all the French chefs over there?
Learning to speak French. So, getting yelled at. So, but we worked hard. My brother worked for me. We had a great crew. Wally was a great teacher. He had patience. He taught. He was really a teacher. He's a great chef, but he taught well. He taught you why and why not, and that's the key.
And then what happens?
Then I say to him after 3 years, what am I worth in New York City, or what can I do? And he says, you're a sous chef material, but in New York, no one's going to give you a sous chef job. You got to go in as a cook. And then I came and worked for Danielle Boulud at the Plaza Athénée for a few months, and Charlie Palmer, who I met up in Westchester was a chef at a country club. He took over the River Cafe, and then I skated over there as his number 2 in 1985.
Now, this is interesting. You went over there. Now, is this before your son was born?
My son was born, and no, before he was born. I started Charlie's number 2, sous chef, River Cafe, 85.
Now, this is interesting. This was the River Cafe. It's in Brooklyn. Not everybody knew that. In Brooklyn, there were no real great restaurants.
Right.
I mean, it was
Right.
Gage and Tolman, which was
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay, and it was the River Cafe. And Buzzy opened this, and he brought Charlie, and he brought you over there. And this 26-year-old kid, this wrestler over here, who's trying to understand French, was working for the famed Buzzy and Charlie, and you made some great things, but I think one of the best things is that you were able to get a 3-star review from Byron Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, that, in the New York Times, I mean, it was tough. Yeah. 26 years, I mean, I read that article about this dynamic, wonderful chef. Yeah. I thought they were talking about somebody else.
The energy was positive, the momentum, right time, right place. We were inventive, creative. We still were grounded in classic cooking. And I think the key to any good chef is know the classics. Then you can build. Like anything, if you're an architect, you need to know the classics.
Yeah, but you made things. You made the Brooklyn Bridge? What was that?
Yeah, no. I've always had a sense of humor with food. I wanted to sell the Brooklyn Bridge. When I was a kid, I was like, hey, the guy will sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. I made a Brooklyn Bridge out of chocolate, which is still on the menu today. And we sold it for $25 for 2 people. We sold thousands. So, I might even put that on my tombstone.
Yeah, you did the Brooklyn Bridge. So now what happens, you're like 32 years of age, and you meet the legendary Alan Stillman.
Yes.
And Alan says to you what? He says, hey, kid.
Alan and I meet at the Post House, and he has an opportunity for me to open a restaurant with him, which is now Park Ave Cafe, which I opened in '92 with him. And I don't know Alan well, but I've heard of Smith & Wesson, but I'm not a steakhouse guy. My determination is to be a fancy chef. So we start talking, and he brings me over there, and I look at the location, and there's the Cirque, and there's Oriole, my mentor Charlie, and I'm like, you know what? And I'm in Brooklyn. I don't feel like I'm part of Manhattan yet. I'm not in the big leagues, even though River Cafe is probably the most majestic restaurant in America. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. So I said, Alan, how do we make a deal? And I said, I can't make a decision because I've got to go cook in San Diego or something. And Alan's a very, very smart businessman.
Gave you the credit card?
Yeah. He picked up the phone and his other office, just, do me a favor, give my friend David a little something for his travel. And he said, David, you got 2 weeks to make a decision. Here's my offer. We made a deal.
And that place has been fantastic. And
yes, the place was great. It's still great. It's a great neighborhood. Alan's he's a genius when it comes to certain
things. So how does the guy who's over at the Park Avenue Cafe get into Maloney and...
Well, Alan and I decided to do a steakhouse together. We opened Maloney Pacelli. He's the founder of TJ Fridays and Smith & Wesson, and he's done a lot of great things. And he's like, David, what would you do if you opened a steakhouse? Give me your brain on paper, steakhouse brain. And we designed a menu that was incredibly delicious, pork shank. And he laughs at me.
Everybody knows about the pork shank.
I remember we had this kitchen table at Park Ave Cafe, which is still there. And we're sitting there, and I give it to Alan. He's like, he goes, it ain't ever going to sell. And I said, Alan, it's going to sell. I was in Munich because I had something similar in Munich. And he goes, go ahead. He's like, go ahead, try it out. And in 2 weeks, you're going to get tired of playing with this new toy. And it's going to go to me. It wins the best dish of the year by USA Today, above Thomas Keller, Daniel. They had, the scallops with black tie and the sea bass. And, it became this very wonderful dish because it was outside the box. And, it's very hard to teach a guy like Alan a lesson. And I said, Alan, it was great. We had a great time with that dish.
Then you, with Alan, opened up one CPS.
We opened one CPS in the Plaza. We had a great run, 9/11, union situations.
And in addition, over there, you also become the vice president for development for the chain.
Well, I opened about 10 Smith & Wessons with Alan around the country. We started in Miami, Chicago, et cetera. Yeah.
So now the kid says, hey, look, even though I own a piece of Smith & Wesson, I'm a shareholder, it's time for me to be the
You hit a certain age, it's an opportunity. You're going to go out on your own, which is very risky. And you're going to do your thing. And you know what, honestly, the adrenaline was slowing down. And I needed more excitement. And I took a risk, and I opened David Burke Donatella.
And that opened when?
December of '03, so the beginning of '04. Our first 2 weeks.
And you said to me,
we never looked back. I mean, we hit. 3 years later, I bought out Donatella. I opened the place in Bloomingdale's called Burke in the Box, and then
I mean, which is unusual. I mean, you got Burke in the Box, and then you got the Burke Burgers. What are they?
Yeah, it's called, yeah. I have a little cafe, and yeah, it's a cafe. It's a true little. It's a lunch spot in a department store. And Michael Gould, who's the chairman, he came to me and he said, "Listen, I got an opportunity. Can we do this?" And I'm like, we sat down and we analyzed it. We said, "Yeah, we can do it."
Now, when you were growing up in Hazlitt, did you ever make it to Monmouth because you like gambling, or AC?
Yeah, I never went. I don't know how to. I still don't know how to bet on a horse. I went to the Derby last year. One of my dear friends.
But what about the crap table?
I'm not a gambler.
No, but then how did you end up in Foxwoods?
Although I won a poker championship. Beginner's luck would beat Tom Colicchio.
But how about the Foxwoods? Then you opened up in Foxwoods.
I opened in Foxwoods. I opened in Vegas. The casinos are just great business plans. Not necessarily to go up and gamble. Foxwoods is a great steakhouse. But I like to have fun at the table once in a while. But yeah.
No, I was joking with you. That was my lead-in. But no, I've been to David Burke at Foxwoods. I was there for my birthday.
It's a beautiful restaurant.
It's a beautiful restaurant. The food is fantastic.
And we built them with salt.
And I did have a dessert. You know, it was.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Later on afterwards, we'll be eating. So then
we lost our pole. Our pole went down.
I'm sorry, the pole fell down. You didn't make support.
The light bulb.
Now what happened? What's Fishtail?
Fishtail is actually a block away from David Burke Townhouse, which is formerly David Burke Donatella. We had an opportunity to take over location. The neighborhood is strong, and we wanted to do something new. So we did a Fishtail. You know, I got to be honest with you, it's a very hip and cool place, and I'm proud of it. It's doing well. It's a beautiful townhouse, too.
Now, how does a guy become? I mean, you've been awarded on the James Beard. And then you won something like when you were really young with the Tokyo.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we have a few things hanging in the office. Yeah.
Right.
And they're all good and great, and and it's nice to get those accolades, and it's good for business. And by the end of the day, we keep plugging along.
So, what's next? New desserts, new restaurants. What is?
Next is actually just staying in touch with what we're doing right now. I mean, we're going to expand down to Soho soon. We're looking for a steakhouse location in Manhattan. We're probably going to, the problem is for me to expand. I don't want to fly to Dubai. I did it. I flew with Alan. I opened a lot of Smith & Wessons. I have a restaurant in Chicago.
Dubai's
Vegas.
too far. I mean, it's a 22-hour trip.
Because my name's on the door, I have to be the guy on the flight. I don't want to fly that much. I want to fly for vacation. I want to fly for business. So our focus will probably be on the East Coast, and mainly Manhattan, Jersey, Connecticut. The opportunities there, and like D.C., Philly, that kind of
stuff. Now you have Chicago also now. What are you doing in Chicago?
Steakhouse. It's called David Burke Prime House. It's fantastic. One of the top steakhouses in Chicago. Actually, it's been rated one of the top in the country, and we have techniques to age beef correctly. I own a bull. My bull sires the meat we serve, and forget about farm to table. This is even better than farm to table. This is owning the rights to your meat. And we did that, Hanson and I did that together, Steve Hanson from Be Our Guest, and it was a smart move. And that was...
You own your beef?
I own the bull.
The bull?
The bull who produces the beef. He inseminates the heifers, and what comes out the heifers gets raised, and we get the first cream of the crop.
Oh, so it's like the best little pooch over there?
Yeah. Okay, it's like raising thoroughbreds.
So that's the interesting thing. How do you get into creating all these, the lollipops and all the other items over here?
I got to blame that on my kids because I tried to get them to eat smoked salmon one day. I've been divorced for years, so kids come over. I got smoked salmon and cheesecake, cream cheese in my refrigerator on a rainy day, so I tried to trick them into eating smoked salmon truffles. So I put them on a stick, and my kids would not buy it. So then we moved into cheesecake.
What do we have here?
This is Cheesecake Pops. This is Drunken Donuts.
What do you mean Drunken Donuts?
Like Dunkin' Donuts, but it's drunken. Because the fillings here have booze in them. And you fill your own. So you take this and...
Oh, so you mean they're fake, or we have to film?
Oh, no, you don't have to film.
Oh no, don't worry. After the show,
I see you got your eye on 'em.
Don't worry. Look, I know. I know.
The idea behind these desserts is that it's for the table and they're fun.
Your mom and dad are alive, thank God. And your father, you were telling me one time when the word David Burke, the sign.
He's the original David Burke.
He's the original David Burke. And he said what? Clean the sign?
My brother was working for me as a purchasing guy. He bought all the food and he took care of it. So I'm in the kitchen and, listen, put your name on. A lot of chefs have their name on, first name, last name. Put your full name on a restaurant takes a lot of guts. So I have David Burke Donatello. So the awning goes up, and that's a proud day, to say the least. It's snowing out. It's December 20th, let's call it. So my dad calls my little brother. He goes, "Hey, I know it's snowing out because make sure the snow doesn't cover my name," which I thought was adorable because it was like, and here's a guy that said, being a chef is not a good decision. I mean, he's behind me 100%. But it took a couple years no one could forecast what was going to happen in America regarding food and wine. Back then, nobody, and it was right time, right place. It was like being a surfer. You catch a wave, and you ride it in.
Now you have a couple of kids, right?
3.
So your oldest is
23 almost. He just graduated University of Vermont. He's going to law school next year. I have a son, Dylan, who's in Johnson & Wales for restaurant management. I have a daughter, Madeline, who starts high school in September.
Do you think any of the kids will get into the business?
Well, Dylan's slated to get into the restaurant management side. The chef side, maybe my daughter, my oldest son, no. The chef side's it's very hard. And they have to, it's not something you can really edge them into. It's something you really want.
I mean, have they had that desire, do you think?
No. I think Connor has a desire to be in business. He might be in a restaurant business as a businessman. Dylan wants to be more nuts and bolts, I think. And my daughter, who knows, she's too young.
They haven't attended bar yet?
Yeah, my oldest son attends bar on his way to law school. That's great. 4 years at U of M, and now he's a bartender.
Hey,
but he's on the right path. I mean, it's a great. He did it last summer, and he's good at it. I think it's good communication with customers, especially on the Upper East Side or anywhere in New York. New York experience in any job is priceless because of the energy in New York and the people skills, and you can't.
But it's interesting as you bring it up. But you did buy Famiglia, in New Jersey. You took that over in Rumson.
I bought the restaurant. I was a dishwasher at, yes, or a potato peeler, whatever.
Depends
I bought it 4 years ago, and that was another one of those great days. And that's another good. That's a reward that is fulfilling, and it's part of being what we do.
So I gotta say, I like the kid from Brooklyn. I'm always a little biased about kids from Brooklyn, and you have truly built New York, and fed New York and people from around the world. Yeah. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Michael.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, The Wickoff Group.
Thank you.